Okay, welcome to FM Live. This week's presentation, we are talking about the 3 steps to success. Today, I am joined by Lisa Pizzuto, who is the Regional Manager of Fluid Mechanics. We're going to be going through the 3 steps of success, but before we do so, remember that most important things that we could ever possess, the 2 most valuable things, are our ideas and then the time to carry them out. Of course, we are here to be giving you the ideas so that you can use the time that you have effectively. As always, we do have a couple video recommendations for you. This week's recommended topics: number 1, did I close the garage door? And number 2, the actual effect of positive energy on achievement. So what you're going to do, you're going to go to fluidmechanics.net/discovery-center. That'll take you directly to it. Alternatively, you can go to the home page, online training tab, Discovery Center, and you can type the titles of these 2 videos in to search for them, watch them, and of course, you'll be able to see the vast library of other videos that you'll be able to watch. To orient ourselves a little bit to where we are on the cornerstones of performance today, this topic is definitely falling under the synergy category. So it is a global concept that will be applicable for all people in all walks of life, no matter what you're trying to accomplish, where you're starting, where you want to be. So go for it, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Tori, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Lisa Pizzuto, and a couple of weeks ago, John had asked me to do and put together a presentation for everyone, and immediately I thought of a presentation that I had done when I was a college swimming coach. Our director of new student orientation had asked me to do a presentation to the 1,200 incoming freshmen one year, and she said, "Lisa, you talk about anything you want," which was, gave me a big, vast thing to think about. And so I thought about being an 18-year-old and being a, freshman in college and what that meant, and things that I wish I had known back then to make it easier for me to be successful, quite frankly. So I tried to keep the ideas really simple and make them so that they could use them throughout their college career to help them go on to become, good at being able to go get a job in the future or go to grad school and be able to present the best of themselves as they could as they went and did that. All right. So I adapted that idea and brought it into this conversation. All right. So let me do a quick screen share here and go down. So the thing that we're going to talk about today is the 3 steps of success. Right. You're going to want to know how to use these 3 steps, what they are, and how to then take those ideas and make the best version of you possible, right? And then take that best version of you and bring that into your future endeavors to help them as well be successful, all right? So those are the things that we're gonna try to do today, all right? And so first I wanna talk about like how I came up with these 3 steps. It seems kind of weird to have this little frame here because I learned about how to be successful by failing, right? And that sounds kind of funny, but I think it's important, to always try really hard. Don't really worry about the outcome and just go and get things done the best you can. And sometimes you will fail, and that's okay, especially when you learn something from it. All right. And what I really learned from this was how to succeed, although I had failed. All right. So we're going to go into a little story time next. I was actually a biology student when I was an undergraduate student, and biology and science, math, really logical, and I had no problem understanding how to be successful at those things. So as an undergraduate student, I did really well. But when I was done with my undergraduate work, I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. And I also had a passion for art. And so I went into, believe it or not, to go on to get a degree in studio art. As a master's degree in studio art with a concentration in painting and drawing. And my first semester, I figured, how hard could this be? I got an A in physics. How hard could art be, right? And so I went on and I started to go into my first semester, and I had this really tough professor. His name was Professor Mark Greenwald. And I had many professors in grad school, but he was the only person that I remember his actual name. All right. And it's because he really taught me a great lesson. And so Mark had a reputation of being really tough. And one thing that Mark would do is he would, if he didn't like what you were doing and your explanation as to why you were doing it, he would rip you apart. And sometimes he would do that in front of people. So I had a great motivation to want to be successful with Mark. All right. And so I started the first couple of weeks of graduate school, and I had this great studio space, and I started painting in the studio, but I quickly realized that it was hard for me to get a lot of work done there because I couldn't eat there. There was no place to, there's no cafeteria in my art studio. I couldn't sleep there. It wasn't where my house was. I lived about a half an hour away. And so what I started doing was taking all my painting stuff and bringing it back to my apartment, and I would paint from there. And I was painting like 10 to 15 hours a day. And I was producing paintings left and right. And, Mark would see me in the hallway sometimes, and he'd be like, Pizzuto, I really like that new painting, but I need to talk with you in the studio about it. And the takeaway for me was, oh, wow, Mark actually likes my paintings. My professor who's giving me a grade likes what I'm doing, right? And so I kept doing that. Every week I'd go back to my apartment, and I'd paint away, and I'd bring more paintings in. I got huge volume. I'd have a lot of, good work that he really liked. And every week he'd see me in the hall and go, Pizzuto, good work. I really need to talk to you though. And all I heard was, hey, you're doing a great job, right? And so the last 10 weeks of the 15-week semester, that's all I did. I produced a lot of paintings. I brought him in. He told me he liked them, but he really wanted to talk with me in the studio, which I didn't quite get at the time. And so, I'm kind of old. And when we got our grades back then, I got an envelope in the mail like 3 weeks later. And I ripped open the envelope and I looked at my grade and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Mark was in charge of 6 of my 9 credits. And he gave me a B- in 6 of my 9 credits. The problem is in graduate school, if you want to maintain progress and actually pass, you need a 3.0 or better, which is a B, right? And although I've got an A in the other class that I was taking, I was put on probation because I was technically failing, right? It's like, oh man. And it took me a couple of days to figure out why he gave me that B-. He liked what I was doing. And then there was that nagging little thing in the back of my head. He always kept saying, but. And the but was, I want to be able to talk with you in the studio about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I never gave him the opportunity to actually do that. And so, he showed me who was in charge really quick. It was not me. And I was not giving him what he wanted. And so therefore, I started to really understand why I had failed. And that's really important, right? It's not so much that you fail, it's that you understand and you learn from it, right? And so from there, I really put together the 3 steps to success. And they're pretty easy once you understand, how simplistic this system actually is, right? You got to know who is in charge. In that case, it was not me. It was definitely Mark Greenwald, all right? You got to know what the person in charge expects. I really didn't know what he wanted, so I really wasn't able to deliver it, right? But those are the 3 steps. Know who's in charge, know what the person in charge expects, and then deliver that, all right? And so once you know the system, the next thing you want to do is know that, what system do you actually want to be successful with, and who do you want to be successful with, right? Now, whatever system that you're in, understand that most of the time you have a chance to change that. Like for instance, if you want to be successful, you follow the 3 steps. But if you don't like the system that you're in, let's say you don't like your job, for instance, and the boss is asking you to do something that you don't want to do. Maybe you don't think it's ethical, right? You can let them know that I don't think that's ethical, and therefore maybe we should change that, right? They can say yes or no about that, but you always have the option of leaving the system that you're in, right? But any system that you actually want to be successful in, you're going to have to know your position within the structure and then learn to interact with others in each direction, all right? And so here's what I mean by that. There's going to be 3 positions that you could be in. You could be the follower, you could be a co-leader, or you can be the leader, okay? And, we just talked about a situation here with where you're the follower, right? And so that's going to happen with your teachers, with your parents, with your coaches, and even with college admissions, right? College admissions departments can tell you exactly what they want from you. We need this amount of grades, we need this test score, the coach is going to tell you these are the times that you want, right? They're giving you the layout in that step number 2, know what the person in charge expects. right? And so then it's your job to actually deliver on that, right? But that's not always the way it's going to go. That's when you're the follower. But sometimes you're going to be the co-leader, right? You're the co-leader with people like your friends, your teammates, when you go on to have a spouse at some point, or somebody who, you're a partner with, your coworkers. It's really important to develop a good relationship with them to make it work. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story about that. All right. So when I was a college coach, the freshmen, I was a college coach for 23 years. And a lot of times the freshmen wanted to live with another like freshman swimmer. And at first I thought that was a great idea. And I'll tell you, after a couple of years, I realized it wasn't such a great idea. And here's the reason why. People don't communicate really well. And so what would happen, I'll change the names to protect the innocent here. But let's say I have a swimmer, her name is Kate. And Kate comes home for lunch every day and she wants to get something to eat, right? And so she grabs the only pot in the apartment and she cooks with that pot, she eats her food, and then she puts the pot back in the sink, intending to actually clean it when she gets home. And then she runs out to class. In the meantime, her roommate, who's also a swimmer, Kim, comes in and she goes, oh, I got to grab some lunch before I have to go to class. And she comes in and the only pot in the apartment is sitting in the sink dirty. Right. So now Kim's really mad, right? The pot's in the sink. She wants to make her lunch. So she cleans the pot real fast. She's, mumbling under her breath the whole time. Man, Kate, how could she not clean her pot? She's gross. I can't believe she's doing this. Right. And so she has to clean the pot. She cooks her lunch, puts the pot back in. She wants to be a good roommate. So she re-cleans the pot and puts it away. And then she goes to class. In the meantime, she's really mad because, Kate didn't do what she should have done, which was clean the pot. Right. And now they're having this, head banging session because neither one of them is being successful with the other, right? And so it's really clear what they missed out on. And that was step number 2, right? And so let me grab my screen back here real quick and just do a couple of ups, right? And so we need to make sure that no matter who's in charge, in the case where it's your roommate or your teammate or your friend, your coworker, you're both in charge. Right? And so you both have to make the rules in step number 2, right? You have to make sure that the other person knows what you expect so that they can be successful with you and deliver what you want, right? And so we used to have a joke on the team, and if I would say crystal ball, it basically meant that nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can read your mind. So unless and until you tell them what you want, people are going to have a hard time being successful with you. And so those two understood the rules at that point, and they started to make better choices to help be successful with the other one. But that's really hard because you know what? This step number 2 really takes great communication. And so if you don't communicate what you want, you're often people are going to fail at giving it to you. All right. So that's going to be really important for you. All right, so that's how you work with, within the structure of being a co-leader. All right, and then the last area is going to be a leader. Now, most of you are going to go on to be a leader of something at some point, whether you're the boss and you have employees, or you're like a teacher and you have students, or you're a parent and you have children. You're going to need to be in the role of the leader, and you have to be comfortable with that, and you have to give people the forum to be able to be successful with you. It's step number 2 that really needs to be clearly communicated in that case. All right. And so another quick story. I had a swimmer who was it actually wasn't a swimmer. He was a male lifeguard that I had. His name was Mike. And so he was a junior when he started working for us over at the pool. And we would have these big swimming lessons, little kids, all under the age of 8. And, we had a lot of kids in there. And I wanted to make sure that even though we had a vast number of people, that we kept everything safe. And so I tried to give really specific, instructions to the lifeguards so that they would help facilitate that. And this guy, Mike, he'd always raise his hand and be like, Lisa, I have a question. Right? And so afterwards, I said to Mike, I'm like, Mike, you have the greatest question. It's really impressive that, you're still in college and you understand how important it is to make sure you know what you want to do so you can be successful. And he started to laugh at me. He goes, Lisa, I was in that incoming freshman class that you spoke to about the 3 steps of success. And so I want to make sure I got step 2, down and I'm doing it right. And so I had to laugh at that because here's this junior in college, telling me back what step 2 was, which, really made me laugh, right? Step 2 is, know what the person in charge wants, right? And so that's going to be super important for him to be successful with me, as his boss. That was something that he would definitely have to do really well. Okay, so we want to definitely know those rules to move forward, right? So now that you know the 3 steps of success, you want to be able to shape yourself into the best version of you, right? And so you learn and understand those 3 steps. You know your role within those 3 steps, all right? You want to become a good follower, a good co-leader, and a good leader, okay? And once you start to understand the different roles that you play in there, it's really easy to be successful. The whole thing hinges, however, on your ability to build good relationships by communicating well with others, right? That's really important. And I got to tell you, as a young kid, I was pretty shy. I was 22 when I learned that lesson from Mark Greenwald when I was in grad school. And, to that point, I was fairly shy in that I didn't ask a lot of questions. I was like, okay, and let me just do what I think you said, right? And so it's going to be important to learn how to communicate, right? It's very, very useful tool, and it's going to serve you well throughout the course of your lifetime, whether it's in swimming or really anything, right? That's going to be very important. All right. And so the next thing you want to do, once you get those rules and you understand what your role is and how to fulfill that stuff, you're going to want to start shaping yourself towards the future, right? I have a lot of clients, many of you are watching today, and I know that, you might be in grade school or middle school or high school, but, most of you want to go to a good school where you can contribute, good academics, you want to be a member of the swimming program, and it's, you start looking into the future and say, okay, well, what do they all want? What do they all want from me to be able to go to school there and to be able to be successful there? And so you look at their admissions page, and it's going to tell you the requirements to get into that school. All right. And it's really interesting. Some of the best schools in the country, they'll have thousands of applicants that meet the high standards of what's being expected. But some of the schools are only, accepting like 9% of those people who actually qualified for those standards, right? And so the question that they're asking is, what is setting you apart to help you get into these schools that you want to go to, right? And so when I was like 18 years old, I had a really good friend of my family, and so he wanted to go to Harvard, okay? And it was interesting because he did not get into Harvard. He was he had really high SATs. I think they've changed the way they score the tests now, but I think he would have had the equivalent of like a 1530 or something, out of 1600. It's a pretty good score, right? And he took AP classes, and he got he's an A student. He was a swimmer. He's a water polo player. But originally he didn't get into Harvard, so he chose a different school, and he was going to go there. But in the meantime, in the fall, he had written this essay, and he had put this essay forward, and he kept winning these contests. And eventually, he was entered into like a national essay contest, and he ended up winning the national essay contest. And it was really cool because they invited him down to Washington D.C., and the president of the United States actually gave him the award, which was pretty amazing, right? So you got to meet the then president, who was Ronald Reagan, believe it or not. I'm that old. He went down there, and it was really cool that he had the ability to go do that. But when he got home, he got on the phone with the admissions department at Harvard, and he said, hey, by the way, I just won this national essay concert, and I just met Ronald Reagan. What do you think of me now? And, what they thought of him now was, hey, we're going to let you in, because, he showed what it was that set him apart from everybody else who had the same test scores, and the same, academic grades that he had. Right. And so he went on to graduate from Harvard. He actually was the captain of the water polo team, I think, for a couple of years. And so, he was a good and productive member of their school, and he almost didn't get in. Right. And so he found what set him apart. And so your job is to find, what sets you apart and makes you the person that everybody's going to want to have, around them and within their structure. All right. And so when you're balancing, your resume for colleges, you want to look at things like academics. Absolutely, they're going to be important, right? Look at your extracurricular stuff. You can pick a million things, or you can pick a couple things that you're excellent at and that you really excel at, right? Community contributions, super important, both in terms of being able to get into college and just because it's a good thing to do. And then your ability for social engagement is also really important. And that ability for social engagement, really includes your ability to communicate well with people, so that you understand what they want, they understand what you want, and you can be successful in that way. All right. And so try to pursue the things that you're passionate about, so that the best of you shines through as you do that. Okay. And so real quickly, I want to jump up here for a second. That Tori had spoken a bit about, and I may have to go down first. Tori had spoken a little bit about the five cornerstones of performance, right? And recognizing that for you to get better, you get better in any of these areas, it's going to make an improvement in you. And right now we're in a situation where some of you haven't been swimming for 2 months, and it's not to anybody's fault. It's just the situation that we're in currently. But at the same time, you have goals and ideas and dreams that you want to pursue and follow and succeed with. And so it's important to recognize that, just because you can't get in the water right now, you have other areas that, you can improve on. There we go. You can improve on to help keep making yourself better, right? And so in the past 2 months, I know at Fluid Mechanics, we've been working to make ourselves better. And we've been putting a lot of these programs online for you to help you pursue those dreams as well. So, we have programs online. We can do virtual sessions in the brain, in strength, in energy systems. We also have them in video series as well. But we've also started doing technique sessions. I've done several Zoom sessions with people, which is really fun. You basically need a body of water, whether it's an endless pool or a little kidney-shaped pool in the backyard, and an iPad and somebody to hold it. And we can do Zoom sessions with you. Again, it's how are you going to move forward at this time when things aren't exactly the same as they've always been? How are you working around that? Because you still have goals and you still have dreams that you want to fulfill. All right. And so being successful in that way is going to be important for you. Okay. Additionally, we've also started with the putting together the FM Fast Track for members, and we have an FM Insider for you this week that Tori, I'll let you talk about real quick.
Okay, so basically what we are doing is next week, we are going to be releasing the FM Fast Track globally. It's going to be available for everybody, but because you are watching this here today, what you will be able to do is go into fluidmechanics.net/join FM Fast Track. So you see the URL right there. Join-FM-fast-track. Type in that URL or send us an email if you'd like us to just send it to you at swim@fluidmechanics.net, and you will be able to sign up for and purchase access to the Fast Track right now. The Fast Track includes a whole mess of tools. Lisa, what's inside it?
Great. So we have some advanced animations. We also have a college pipeline, which is huge. College pipeline, I basically made it several years ago, and it keeps up with all the NCAA rules. It gives you a step-by-step walkthrough as to everything you want to do from 8th grade all the way up to 12th grade to make sure you understand the rules of admissions into college, how to be getting online with where the swimming coach wants you to be, and really just walks you through step by step. That's a huge value for people, and I think many people will really like that and take advantage of that. Also time zone, so that you understand how to set proper goals, also how to pace your races correctly. Some people make the same mistakes over and over in their races, and so if you see how to pace your races correctly, it's going to be a lot easier for you to swim those goal times. Race mapping available for the first time, which is a really cool tool. We basically look at every moment of your swim from the point where that starting signal goes off to the point where you put your hand on the wall, and we show you your opportunities to get faster, which is really neat. We also have trial sessions in strength, the conceptual brain, and then also energy systems. So if you're interested in any of those areas, you can see what interests you, and that's the first class in each of those areas. So that's a huge value. I think people really like it, and they really enjoy the tools that are in there, and they can see how those can really help them out to being successful. Okay, so final takeaway for what we're talking about today. For our 3 steps to success, we need to know what the 3 steps are so you can shape yourself for success and really get yourself good at being successful. All right. And then once you do that, you're going to then take that and become the best version of you that you can. And then once you are that best version, it's going to shape yourself into the future that you want for yourself. Again, the time to start on all of this success is right now. The more you practice, those interactions and being successful with other people, the better you get at it. The longer you have to practice that and do it well, the better prepared for your future that you're going to be. All right, Tori, what do you got next?
All right, so next week, I am going to be doing a presentation on the FM time zone. My co-host next week is going to be Nick, and he is going to actually be talking about how he used FM time zone, one of the tools that will be in the fast track, to dominate his competition when he was a swimmer, and then how that helped him get to where he is today as part of the team with us.
And that is a picture of Nick. I think he was 11 at the time.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you liked today's show. Definitely let us know what you thought about it. Send us an email, go to the website, let us know if you're interested in getting started with the fast track or if you want some more information on that. And we will see you next week. All right.